It's time for the Brouhaha Sports Show. Brouhaha Sports with award-winning sports writer Dale McKee and co-host Marshall Wood. Talking sports with the legends of the game and famous sports personalities. Brouhaha. Now to Marshall and Dale with tonight's guest.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brouhaha. Dale McKee, what in the world of sports is going on, son?
Well, you know, there's a lot going on right now. They still got football going on.
Well, you know, I saw where A.J. McCarron had a big play or something to bring somebody back, the XFL or something.
How did our boy J-Mar do? You didn't keep up.
I'm sorry, I'm embarrassed. Well, I got my head down.
Maybe they didn't start.
Well, he's liable to call now any minute and get on me.
Yeah, I mean, the NBA had a little dunk contest, kind of interesting.
Yeah.
You know, they had a guy that has never played for the Philadelphia 76ers, but he represented them and he won the dunk contest.
So he identified as a 76er.
Yeah, and he was 6'2", and I don't know if I can say this on the air again, but he was he was a...
You can't say it.
I can't say it.
He is what he is.
He is what he is. But he won it, and everybody went crazy because he's about 6'2", and you know he's got a great story there.
Yeah,
there you go. So anyway,
well, you know what about you mentioned a great story, and you typically have a pretty good gift of gathering up guys that's got great stories, and I imagine for our guest tonight you probably got another one. Who you got for us tonight?
We have a former Taylorsville Flash, Jason Campbell, and Jason also went to the University of Auburn and led the Auburn Tigers to an undefeated season Sugar Bowl win one year. And then he went to the NFL and stayed for about probably over a dozen years, around a dozen years. And so, but he's a class person. He was raised by good people. Yeah. His dad, a longtime coach there at Taylorsville. He's always a basketball coach assistant, and really Jason was just good in basketball. It was football, but he had to make that decision, and a lot of it has to do, and a lot of kids don't understand this time and in this day and time. When you're 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", you're in that medium range for basketball. You're almost small, but for football, you're a giant. So he chose with the and I think his dad probably helped him a lot there, and so but he had some brothers. He had a brother who played at Mississippi State, tight end. Yeah. So, but Jason's a great guy.
I was always following him, when he went to Auburn, it was always, I consider these folks out of the Pine Belt, home folks, when they get out to that level, and he's a fine young man, and we're looking forward to hearing from him. But I tell you what, let's do, Dale. Mm-hmm. Let's take a break to hear from our sponsors, and then you and I'll be back with tonight's guest, Jason Campbell, right after the break. See you in a minute, folks.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome to the show, Jason Campbell. How are you doing, Jason?
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm doing good. Just enjoying this different phase of life, I guess you can call it, but not a player anymore, but I still have a lot of close ties to the game of football and also to the game of life. So, I'm just having a good time right now.
Well, listen, share with our audience what you're basically doing. I saw where you were working with the Auburn NIL people, and right now you just got a little... You got a career move there from, I don't know if it's a promotion or not, but you're going to be the football analyst for Auburn football this year. Congratulations, first of all. And that's a hard job to get. You've got to have played quarterback at Auburn. Is that correct? Because that's all they're hiring, right?
Yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah, it seems like to be the quarterback's, it's the quarterback's job, it seems like, because over the years, you had Charlie Trotman and everything, so you had Pat Sullivan. People don't realize he did it for a few years back in the day, and then Stan White's been doing it for the last 22 years, and now they passed the torch on to me. So depending on how many years I do it, I'm just gonna take it 1 year at a time and have as much fun as I can. But I like it because it keeps me close to the game, keeps me close to the program. It's the closest thing you're going to get to suiting up without, getting hit, but you're dealing with every play. You're involved in every play, and try to get the listeners, what they want to hear. Try to, educate them a little bit more about the game as far as like the way that I see it through my eyes, just from my experiences of playing college and pro ball, and just try to, make them understand the game, while they're watching it. So, I look forward to this fall and look forward to, doing it with Andy Bertram, who I've been working with for the last 6 years at the Auburn Radio. I was doing a pregame and halftime report, but now to be calling the plays alongside of him, it'll be a really good treat because we already know each other. We have histories together for the last 6 years. So to stay a part of the family, but just in a different role, was a lot of the reasons why I accepted the job.
Well, listen, again, congratulations. But, I like a quarterback, too, as an analysis guy. I like Tony Romo. Some people may not, but I like him. I like the way he calls the game because he explains to us sometimes why a play failed, especially from the quarterback position, especially, this is what happened. A lot of times we always blame those plays on the quarterback, but sometimes there's other issues involved. So I for one, am anxious to listen to some of your broadcasts and everything. Now, what are you doing? But you're doing a podcast too, show, aren't you, for Auburn?
Yeah, I do a podcast. It's called Believe in Everything Auburn. It's BLEAV, and I actually do it with a young lady named Taylor Davis. She does ESPN college football, and she graduated from Auburn. So we both do a podcast with the Believe Company, and we usually have weekly guests, or sometimes we're just on there talking about everything that's going on in Auburn from every sport, but mainly football. Also, working in the NIL space. I started working in the NIL space last year for our collective at Auburn, and it's been fun because sometimes I find myself more in a mentor role in those situations, which is what a lot of these guys need because they're carrying the pressure of having to deal with so many different things thrown at them nowadays, and also trying to have a balance between football and business. But how do you stay grounded? How do you stay how do you keep focused when so much is happening, and especially with the social media? So there's a lot of things I'm tied into. I was doing CBS up in New York and Monday NFL Quarterback, and I had to let that go to focus on NIL and focus on the being a radio color analyst, and also just make sure I have the time available, because anything I put my time and effort into, I want to make sure that I can be dependable and make sure I can be accountable and be where I'm supposed to be, and not try to be in a whole bunch of places at one time. So, I look forward to it.
Well, listen, Auburn's had quite a change since probably the middle of the football season last year. Cadillac was promoted to head coach just before the Mississippi State game last year. And it seemed like it really re-energized the Auburn fan base. This season was kind of just really lackluster, and I'm not talking bad about anybody. I'm just saying from what we saw on the television screen, but it seemed like all of a sudden everybody was back behind the program and wanted it to be a success. And really, they weren't really worried about the wins and losses. I'm sure they wanted to win, but it was like, hey, we're going to get this thing going again. And tell us about that little transition, and then tell us what you think about Coach Freeze and what he's done for the Auburn football.
Yeah, we'll talk about the first one is, when Cadillac took the job as the interim head coach, it was much needed. Some of us think it should have happened a little sooner, just because it's not like you're speaking bad, you're speaking facts. Anybody can look at the TV screen and say, oh, that's not Auburn football. And just the way we were playing, we weren't playing with a lot of energy. It wasn't a lot of enthusiasm that normally is in the Auburn program, and everything. Not speaking bad of Coach Harsin, but sometimes the fit just doesn't fit, and just those situations where maybe they tried something and it just didn't fit, and everything, and you got to have somebody in that position that's kind of tied to the SEC or tied to the Southeast that understands, like, hey, what it takes to be successful in this league, what it takes to go into these kids' homes and recruit against LSU, Bama's, and Georgia's, and Tennessee's, and Mississippi State, and Ole Misses that go in and compete from a standpoint that when you're sitting in there talking to these kids to know what it takes to play at this level. And a lot of it, guys, it comes from having connection with high school coaches. And, Coach Harsin coming from Boise, his connection may be way out west, but he may not have any connection with the high school coaches in the Southeast. And, that you can feel welcome to come into the schools and recruit the kids. And all those things come back to relationships. And I just feel like, we were falling way behind in recruiting, and we wasn't getting it done on the football field. And, and unfortunately, when that happens, you have to make a change. And when they made the change to Carnell, they couldn't have picked a better guy that's an Auburn man, first through and through. Lax is all about hard work. He was my teammate for 4 years, and, he understands what it takes. He understands what it takes to be mentally focused. He understands the energy that you got to play with. To give the fans your best, like create a legacy for yourself. Don't just come through these doors and just, be there, but come there and be present, be where your feet are, be locked in, locked all the way, do something with yourself and not just float through. And I think once he took over the job, he held a lot of these guys accountable. He made guys focus on their academics. If you were falling behind, you didn't start, you didn't play. Those are things that was going on when I was there. You have to make sure you did everything you're supposed to do. And it was just as important off the field as it was on the field. And, he took a lot of those things that we learned when we was there, and he implemented it into those last 4 weeks. And you saw a difference. You saw guys hold each other accountable. You saw guys playing harder. You saw the stands getting full because the Auburn family now realize, okay, now this is Auburn football. Win or lose, they knew this was Auburn football. And people showed up, and they was sold out crowd with a 3-6 football team. We get a sold out crowd, and they end up, playing tough down the stretch there, and almost got 3-1, but ended up finishing 2-2. And it all started the second half of the Mississippi State game. They went down at halftime, and Lack said no one flinched. He said the guys got up and started talking to each other, and and picking each other up in the second half. They played great football, and from that standpoint on, throughout the rest of the season, you saw a different level of energy, and that's what it takes to compete at this level. Now with Coach Freeze, I say Coach Freeze, when he got hired, it's a really good hire because he's a guy that he's been in the SEC, he's had success in the SEC. He understands that you got to have players, and you can have all the S's and O's you want, but if you don't have the players to execute, you're not going to win. And he's a guy that dove heavily into recruiting. He turned the transfer portal around. Well, I think we finished 1 or 2, depending on who's ranking it. But we also, in our recruiting class, it went from 50 or something when he got the job. Within a matter of a month and a half, we ended up finishing top 15. So, he's already making his mark on the program, and kids are listening. They're buying into what it is that he's trying to teach them and coach them, and he's letting everyone feel involved. And part of being a head coach is leadership, and I think he understands that standpoint of it, and guys are following him. But he definitely has brought a newfound energy. Like I said, I think Lack kind of gave him a little bit of a toss, where he kind of got it built the last 4 games of the season. He brought him on as assistant head coach, and understanding the importance that he brings to the program, and then it helped him get everything rolling once he got here. It wasn't starting from ground zero. Some of the work had already been started ever since they made the change. So it was a great tandem for those 2 guys. One is a player that played at Auburn, the other one that's coaching the SEC, and then the guys he brought on his staff. I think he's put together a tremendous staff, and we look forward to what he's going to do for Auburn in the future here. And the excitement is back in our program. Like, it feels like what it should feel like, and I think people are excited.
Yes, quite. Freeze, he just did a tremendous job at Ole Miss for those years that he was there. Okay, so a lot of people around here listening to the show know a lot about you as far as your high school days at Taylorsville, and you coming out of high school, one of the highest rated quarterbacks probably in the history of this state when you were coming out, and you were parade All-American, Dandy Dozen, about every award that you could get your senior year. But what went into the decisions? Because I know your brother Larry played at Mississippi State for Jackie Sherrill. So what transpired for Jason to hop across the state line and go to Auburn?
Yeah, that was a real tough decision. I remember coming out. I remember, the recruiting time at that time. I remember Eli had signed with Ole Miss the year before. So I said, okay, that's scratched. And then I remember going to Mississippi State. I had been going there for the last 4 to 5 years, watching my brother play. And I know they run the football a lot, and, they hadn't had a lot of offense success. They've always had a lot of defense success. And they was really good on defense and everything. But, and then just kind of going there, I kind of want to find my own footsteps. I kind of didn't want to just be following the same footsteps that he went, but also create my own, my own for myself. And Southern Miss was right down the street, and that was close to home. But at the same time, I wanted to play in the SEC. It was always my dream ever since going to watch him play at Mississippi State and everything, and just going to those games and seeing the crowds and see how everybody gets involved and the love that they show. It's exciting, and I just want to be a part of it. So I remember telling the Big Ten, a lot of the ACC, and teams across the nation that, guys, I appreciate your, recruiting me and wanting me to come to your school, even Notre Dame and everything. And I told them, I said, I just always had a dream of wanting to play in the SEC, so I would like to narrow it down to the SEC schools and everything. So, yeah, it was tough when going out of state. I remember the first time I came back to play in state, at Ole Miss game, and, I had a lot of people from my hometown that was there, Mississippi State game. It always felt different, when you came back because it was hard. You want to win and everything. You want to play your best as well because you're playing back in front of your home state crowd. But I've always had love in my heart, for the schools in Mississippi to do well, outside of Auburn. I've always pulled for them to do well as well because, like I said, I have ties to Southern Miss. My sister went there. My brother went to Mississippi State and everything. So, I have connections. But I just wanted to just have my own footstep. And Tuberville was recruiting me ever since he was at Ole Miss. And then he went over to Auburn, and everything. He kept recruiting me super hard there, too. And it came down between LSU, Auburn, and Georgia and Tennessee when it got down to it and everything. And it was a tough decision, but I tell everybody, man, it was a fun experience because I got a chance to meet so many different people, so many different relationships, guys that recruited me in high school, end up coming to Auburn at some point in time, or I end up meeting them in the NFL on the coaching level or something. So you just never know who you're going to meet and how you're going to meet people. So I always say, always give everybody your undivided attention. Always make sure that you communicate with people and that you build good relationships. So you just never know when your paths may cross. And I've always respected everything, and I still love Mississippi. My family's still there, and we still do camps and everything in the area. That we want to try to start that back up. We used to do it at Jones for 9 years, and then COVID kind of stopped us. But we want to do things where we're still pouring back into our younger community and everything. So, I'm still tied there in a lot of ways.
Well, thank you. Okay, now it wasn't always an easy ride at Auburn, right? As far as because you had, I don't know if people understand, you had 4 offensive coordinators in 4 years. It must have been a real thing. But why didn't you jump and run like the kids do now? If things ain't working out, you just leave. You take the next bus out of town.
Right, that's a great way to put it, Dale. When you think about it, man, like kids nowadays, the first time something don't go right, they up and jump. Like I told people, I said, look, when I came out of high school, I was top 2 quarterback in the nation. And I said, Auburn told me I was going to throw the football, we were going to throw the lights out of it. That's what I did at Taylorsville, and that's what they was doing actually a year they was recruiting me. And then once I got there, they kind of changed their format a little bit. They wanted to be more of a run team and everything, which I was okay with, but it just felt like I wouldn't get a chance to really utilize my abilities to the best because I felt in some ways like, handcuffed a little bit, where you couldn't just do all the different things because there wasn't a whole lot of opportunities. And I remember talking with my dad, and him being a coach helps me so much because he was like, son, you just got to keep grinding and keep working extremely hard. Don't worry about it. It's all going to work itself out. He's just like, what you're going through now is building you for something greater. And, you're going through it, you get frustrated, but I always tell the kids nowadays, I'm like, God, it's not always greener on the other side. As soon as you shift to the other side, now you're just starting all over again. I said, so whatever needed for you that you need to learn, whether God wants you to learn something then to help get you to the next phase of your life, like if you try to jump ship and run away from frustrations or run away from trials and tribulations, like you're only restarting yourself somewhere else, and it's going to show its face again at that place. So you always got to understand how to build yourself and understand that character is built through some of your most trying times, and confidence is built. Like no one's going to hand you anything on a silver platter. That's what a lot of these kids now, they get recruited really big out of high school. They get to these colleges, and all of a sudden things don't go the way they think it should go, or they're not getting what they thought they should get. And now, next thing you know, they want to up and jump ship and go somewhere else. So now, what are you chasing? Because you're chasing something that's unrealistic. And I always tell kids, I said, I get it if you play the quarterback position. You got two guys in front of you, and they're starting for the next 2-3 years. You only got 4 years to get seen to have a chance to go to the next level. I understand it, but in a lot of these situations, I try to tell kids, there's competition no matter where you go. I said, if you can't compete in college, then what makes you think you're going to be able to compete in the National Football League? I said, because there's only 64 jobs, really, of quarterbacks. You got the starters and you got the backups. Other than that, they usually put you on practice squad or to cut you. So you better get used to having to compete and understand and stop getting upset because they signed this person, they signed that person. Coaches are going to continue to sign people because that's how they feed their families, is winning. If they don't win, they're fired. I was just like, so you got to understand they're going to bring somebody else in. That's their job, is to keep loading the roster. I say, but your job, that shouldn't scare you. You should have enough belief and confidence in yourself that you should say to yourself, it doesn't matter who they bring in here, I'm not moving because I know I can win. I know I can beat this person out. This is my job to lose. And I've always had that mindset. And I remember when I was at Auburn, they signed Mr. State of Alabama and Brandon Cox, who was a quarterback. And I didn't flinch. It doesn't matter who they bring in. I'm going to beat them out. And I remember having a different coordinator every year. Noah Mazzoni was the first one. We had about 7 freshmen starting that year. Then the sophomore year, Bobby Petrino came in. Now, Ashton had a really good year that year. And then he ended up getting the Louisville head coaching job. And then we ended up trying to keep the same system. My third year, we had about 5 different coordinators because everyone was trying to do it by committee. And that too many heads in the fire just doesn't work. But then our senior year, we got Al Borges. Al Borges said, I found a gold mine. And he said, I'm going to tell you why. He said, you got 6'3" receivers, 6'4" receivers. You got 2 great running backs. One, he said, it's not even being utilized in the passing game like shit. He said, our offensive line, we got 4 guys that can play in the NFL on Sundays. And he said, and we have a quarterback that can throw. This can be a first-round draft pick. And he said, but you guys are not being seen because y'all just not having the opportunities. He said everybody in this room is going to touch the ball at some point in fashion during the game. And he said you won't know when it's going to come your way, so always keep your antennas ready. And he always told me, he said, Jay, just play football and don't worry about making mistakes. You make a mistake, we'll fix it. Don't worry about it. And I just remember just letting all that weight go off my shoulders and just say, you know what, stop trying to play to impress people. Stop trying to do what people want me to do or try to make people happy, but be Jason. Play ball the way you know how to play it, the way that you've been playing it since you was a kid. And if you make a mistake, let it roll off your back. Learn from it. Move on to the next play. And I got that mentality, and I just went out there and played my butt off. And, in that year I ended up being SEC Player of the Year, and ended up being top 7 in the Heisman voting. And just I give all the credit to God because, he kept me there, and he kept me firm in all of it. And I learned so much through that I built more relationships going through that. And I have more people come to me now and talk to me about, hey, how did you go through all of that and still get to where you're at? That means a lot more than just accolades, because at the end of the day, most of these kids nowadays, they turn and they run the first time they get something go against them or something don't go their way. And not realizing, look, sometimes you need to go through that just for it to build and mold your character and your perseverance. And I just hope that our young kids, man, could just, stop jumping so much because somebody's waving something in front of their face and they think that's the best way because of that, because it's something more over here. That doesn't mean it's better because it's more. So you just have to understand these kids and try to mentor them as best as you can.
Jason, this is Marshall, and I heard you mentioned, I'm going to kind of change bases. We're about out of time, but there's a couple of things I want to ask you. You mentioned the game of life early here, and I was going to ask you what you would tell young guys today, and I think if they've listened and they've heard it, that's been really, really exciting. But I want to ask you a real simple question here. You've played at every level. Where did you have the most fun? Where did Jason Campbell have the most fun playing ball?
I tell you, if I had to rank them, high school was extremely fun. NFL, I would say, would be my last. High school was extremely fun because you grow with the kids that's in your community all the way through high school. It's nothing like playing on that football field, cousins, friends, people you've been knowing ever since you was 2 to 3 years old. Yeah. And those Friday night lights in Mississippi, I loved it even more because we dream of playing football. Friday night lights in Mississippi it's a big deal. People shut down their businesses to come watch games. And, that's the excitement. Like, I love when we played at Tugsville, it'd be 4,000 people there, when you play these big games, like, that's fun. And then I would say playing in college nets because, you come into a college with 4 years and you get a chance to create a legacy, and you're renting those seats out for 4 years, and what you do within that 4 years can determine what comes after that when you become a real person in the real world. And you build camaraderie with guys that's there from different schools, but now you got to come together and build something special. So that to me was fun. NFL was last because it's so business oriented. Not everyone has the same desire to just win. Some guys are in it for different reasons, and then the locker room changes so much because it is a business where it's constantly changing throughout the season. Where guys could be cut or somebody brought in. It's just always constant change, but it teaches you a lot in life, so you deal with a lot of change. So it molds you to be stronger, than most probably would when change comes. You don't flinch. Yeah. And I would rank them that direction: high school, college, and pro, just like it already is when you go to each level.
I got you. Well, listen, Jason, we have enjoyed you so much, and we're so thankful for your time today. And I know our listeners are going to get a real charge out of this, and we're going to learn something, particularly our kids that listen in. So we're going to have to take a break now to get ready for our final segment. I want to sign us off, but will you hang on? Don't hang up. We're going to talk to you just a little bit more after this sign off, okay? All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we're going to take a break now to hear from our sponsor before we move to the final segment of tonight's show, but stay tuned for more of the Brouhaha right after this break.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome back, everyone. What a good night here talking to Jason Campbell, and he's everything we thought he would be. I mean, what a fine young man, and I tell you what, I guess he considers himself home back over there now, and he's going to do a wonderful job for the University of Auburn over there doing what he does, or Auburn University, I should say.
Sure. College life, I know I really enjoyed college life.
Yeah. Did they have college back then?
They did. They didn't have as many students as they have now. I can promise you that.
Yeah. I came across an interesting article the other day about some prospective changes in clock management at the collegiate level. Have you seen any of that?
Well, what sport are we talking about?
Football. Yeah.
No, I haven't really. I saw where they're trying to put a clock in baseball, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Boy, that's got to be pretty dumb.
Well, being a little coaching baseball over the years and stuff like that, the thing that makes baseball unique from the other sports, it doesn't have a clock.
Well, I hadn't thought about that.
But if you're behind, you do get last at bat. In football, a lot of times that's not the truth. The other team may have the ball and never give you a chance to get it. Mm-hmm. Remember the NFL used to have that crazy overtime rule: first team to score wins.
Yeah.
That was stupid. I don't know who make these rules up, but they should have called me ahead of time. Or you.
Well, yes, sir. They should have called you. I agree. They're talking about changing clock management at the collegiate level, and they're going to kind of adopt some of the rules. A lot of people are fussing about it, but the one that's causing all the problem. I see a third proposal is the big one, considering it's a rule already in the NFL. big part of why college football games traditionally last so much longer. In the NFL, the clock continues to run after first downs. Meanwhile, the first down stops the college clock until the ball is placed. Most games feature 20-plus first downs, so that's a huge number. It's going to reduce the time of the game. So they're thinking, what do you think about that, Dale? You think they need to reduce the overall time, not the number of minutes played per se, but just the overall time of the game that it takes to play it? Do you think they need to narrow that down a little bit?
I don't think that rule would really hurt them. I think everybody would adapt to that. I just know the game has changed. A high school game, honestly, back in the 60s and 70s probably took, people don't understand this, that a high school game, started around 7:30 and you were probably getting ready to go to the car at 9 o'clock. Of course, the game was changed, and they did have that high school rule at the time. The clock kept running after I think in the 50s they changed it, but at one time the clock kept running after incomplete pass.
Well, they probably didn't throw many.
Yeah, well, they didn't, and so they really didn't understand that. But I can see making that change because some games do seem last for forever.
Yeah.
You start a game 11 o'clock, you don't finish it till almost 3.
Yeah.
You've already missed lunch.
Can't have that.
Yeah.
We're starving to death out here.
So no, I completely understand that. I think the TV people have dictated too many commercials. I went to a basketball game the other day down at Southern Miss, and all I can tell you is that they stopped the clock at around 15 minutes for no reason. Then they'd stop it again around 11 minutes for no reason, and they called it a TV timeout. And then they stopped it at about 5 minutes to go in the half, And I don't understand all that because a lot of times if a team gets on basketball is one of these games of streaks.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody will score 10 points and the other team will score 10 points. And so a lot of times you really mess up the game. But teams adjusted, and I know TV money pays for a lot of empty seats that don't get filled during basketball season or ever what it is. But no, I don't think that one simple rule would hurt them that much. I really don't understand why. I understand why pros have a little different rules than high school.
Yeah.
But the high school should be adopted on the college rules. If we're going to have consistency, because I think a lot of people in the stands get very confused. That was a penalty. I saw at SEC game there was a penalty. You know. And that might not be the high school rule for it. I know a long time ago this was a simple thing. I go back to one of the Super Bowls. There was a pass play, and this was in the early 70s. There was a pass play where it tipped a offensive player, and another offensive player caught the ball and scored a touchdown. Well, at that time,
not so fast.
That was illegal to do, but the refs didn't catch it because it was just a fingertip thing there. Well, that Friday night, I remember watching the Clara Whippets.
Oh yeah,
and Stringer playing. And I don't know why I remember this game, but anyway, they threw a pass and it tipped, and everybody in the stands, hey, that's a penalty. But it wasn't in high school.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's what's different about the rules.
Somebody could get beat up over something like that.
Yeah, but, that's not a big rule. That's such a minor rule, but what I'm saying, even the penalties, I think, are a little bit different in the different levels of sports. But I don't think that'll hurt. What do you think? You're the smart one. You're the one that sits up in the radio booth.
Roll it. Roll them, baby.
You're the one with all the knowledge.
Let's get them done. Huh? Roll it. Good. Let's go.
Good.
I like that rule. Save a little time.
Great.
Might have time to get a little gas on the way back.
There you go.
Listen, Dale, we're about out of time. We want to thank all the folks for joining us tonight, and to remind y'all to check us out on our Facebook page at the Brouhaha. But where the reaction for the Brouhaha is past our regularly scheduled shows is on our YouTube channel at the Brouhaha, where we archive all the shows. So check us out. But for now, the time has come to say goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, Dale.
And we'll see you next week for more of the Brouhaha. Get us out of here, Jamie.
You've been listening to the Brouhaha with Dale McKee and Marshall Wood. Heard Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. on WABO. For more of the Brouhaha, follow us during the week on Facebook and WABO.